On today's episode of LatinX Mentor, we sit down with hair and makeup artist and entrepreneur Alix Main. Alix established herself with work in television and film before opening up Main & Company salons. With locations in New York City and San Antonio, she has built her beauty empire with products, books, and mentorship. Thank you for joining us again on LatinX Mentor. My name is Dulce Espinosa. This is my dad, Javier Espinosa. This is Diego. And we have two very special guests with us, Kiki and Kiki's insanely talented mom, Miss Alix Main.
Oh, thanks.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, Alix. You know, I was telling my daughter that you and I go way, way back.
Definitely.
Here in San Antonio, when I first got here, that you were cutting hair. And I think we met where you were cutting hair and you started cutting my hair. And I've kind of seen the evolution of Alix into who you are today.
Yeah.
And so, you know, kind of with that backdrop, do you mind telling us a little bit about your background, where you're from?
Sure.
Kind of, you know, your story.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I met you, I had actually decided, I had been in production. We were kind of talking a little bit before the show that, you know, my goal was to become an actress and a model. And so in doing that, I actually came across meeting Selena, and she became my mentor.
Who's Selena?
Selena Quintanilla.
I'm just kidding. Not Selena Gomez.
The Selena.
The original
Selena. Yeah. And so, I mean, she really took me under her wing. She bought me my first pair of designer shoes. She was definitely probably my first inspiration, mentor, all the things.
Because you're originally from Corpus Christi.
I'm originally from Corpus Christi. I was born in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, but I grew up in Corpus Christi. My mother is from there, born and raised.
This is a little bit of an aside, but how did you guys meet?
Selena?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to audition for a modeling gig. So they were going to have their runway shows. And so I was 15 years old. And I went to audition, and I walked for Martin Gomez and Selena.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
so
awesome.
I was like really nervous, and I just, you know, I was very confident. Like I could fake confidence.
Yeah.
So I was really good at it. And so I just...
So this is when she started her designer clothing store.
It is. And before that, it's funny because this was a time when like people would stop you in the mall and be like, oh, you should be a model. And then you'd go to like Barbizon, modeling school or whatever, but you had to pay for it. And at the time, I was always working. I always worked either for my parents or Whataburger or, you know, Champ Sports. I always had a job, and my parents made me pay for my things. So I begged my mother. I was like, I want to go to this modeling school. Like, I want to do it. But you know what? That gave me the confidence to actually execute that audition. And I was able to go in and I actually got chosen to walk out at all the shows with the designer. So I walked out with Martin at all the shows.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And you were 15 at the time?
I was 15 years old when I started working with Selena. And then we would practice at her design house. And so we would practice walking. And I was really the only girl that wasn't a part of the Texas pageants. So she actually recruited all her models from the Texas pageants, which it was Miss Teen Texas and Miss Texas. And so I was kind of like a little bit of an odd man out. I was not a part of a pageant. I just kind of randomly went in there. I grew up Jehovah's Witness. I'm no longer Jehovah's Witness, but at the time, her cousin Manuel actually gave me that, you know, like, hey, they're auditioning and they're trying to find models. And so here I am, this little Mexicanita, and I go in there and I'm like, confident. I go and do my walk that, you know, they taught me at my little Barbizon, or I went to actually John Casablanca school. So
wow.
Awesome. And I would drive from Corpus with my mom, and we would come here to the John Casablanca school.
Wow.
In San Antonio.
In San Antonio. And I invested my money, we invested our time, and we did all that. So one of the things I love to say, and I told you the other day, when preparation meets opportunity, it's something really special happens.
Yeah.
So you really have to prepare for whatever it is that you envision for yourself. You have to just prepare for it as if it's going to happen. And so you take those steps towards those goals. And so that's what I did. I mean, you know, people would probably, say, hey, well, you're not really a model because you're paying for your classes. But you know what? Nobody was going to give me that opportunity.
Yeah.
Nobody believed in me because I would be told that people would tell me, your nose is too big, you're too short, your hips are too wide. And they would tell me no all the time, but I didn't tell me no. So I believed in myself.
So one of the things that we've talked with some other guests, is kind of mapping your own way and putting yourself in the world that you want to be, whether that's film, whether that's politics, whether that's modeling. And so for you, you knew you wanted to be in modeling. You knew you wanted to be in that world.
Right.
And so you invested your own time, your own money to prepare, which led to the opportunities to put yourself in where that world is, right?
Definitely,
And
yes.
so what happened after that? Tell us a little bit more.
So, what was really great about Selena is she, my mom ran our family business for over 30 years. It was a fire extinguisher safety and service company. And so my mom really ran that. And so she was always super, super busy. And, she was always kind of shuttling me here and there. And because of her, shuffling around and being a little bit late, those were moments I really cherished because I got to spend time with Selena after everybody left, and she would wait with me for my mom to pick me up. And so we would be in the studio and she would tell me, and I don't know why, I think back to it now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like this 15-year-old girl and she's like telling me her dreams and telling me the things she wants to do. She told me that she wanted to make a catalog and she was like, I'm going to have you as my model. And I mean, my eyes are just like so big, right? And I'm just so excited. But she also, she was designing clothes. I mean, she's singing. She wanted to make a perfume. She wanted to she just had all these different dreams. And so I told her, I was like, she noticed I was really good at makeup. And she says, your makeup is really nice. And I said, oh yeah, I love Kevin Aquan. I study the books and I have read his book and I just love playing with makeup. I just don't have access to it. And she says, you should go to cosmetology school. I have a salon. You could definitely do that. You could have this to fall back on if you don't, end up doing modeling. And no words have ever rung truer because I did have that to fall back on. The modeling is what took me to meeting a makeup artist on set. And it was here in San Antonio. I was doing a big job for Sign Tech. And I was a model at the time. And I have, you wouldn't know it here, but I have very, very curly hair. I mean, it is like Mariah Carey curly. So people would not know how to handle my hair and they wouldn't know how to handle my face and they would just really mess up my makeup. And so I learned to just come with my hair and makeup already done and just try to be the least possible trouble so that I could just kind of, fly under the radar and get seen. And so sure enough, I go to the job. It's right here on 9th Street. I was working with, I think it was Mark Langford's studio. And I'm there and they're like, do you have anybody ready? They're trying to hurry up, time is money on these things. So they shoot me in for this, for the pictures. And I start taking the pictures right away. And then they start bringing in the other models. I was the only one from San Antonio. They had flown in girls from LA, from Dallas. And so I'm there and they start bringing in the other girls and they say, can we get, we need her makeup to look like this. And it was the makeup I had done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
It was awesome, but it was also kind of
yeah. Ooh,
I'm going to get noticed that I did my own makeup and I'm supposed to come with a clean face, but at the time, I don't want to mention the makeup artist, but I ended up working for her. I got a job out of that.
So you started out in front of the camera with the modeling and then you were just so talented. It just shined through in that moment and they put you behind the camera. What happened then?
I started working with this makeup company. And so it's kind of that chose me. It's I wanted to go down this path of makeup, of modeling and acting. And every time I tried to, I just always kind of ended up getting put behind the camera because I was really good at makeup or hair or helping somebody with something like that. So I ended up working for that company and that person became my mentor. And so, it was one of these things where, here I have a new mentor for makeup and business and set etiquette. And here I had Selena. I mean, that's, so these are both mentors, both extremely valuable in the sense of teaching me things, but really different teachers.
In what sense?
Well, I mean, the other mentor that I had for makeup, she was a businesswoman. And I think sometimes women, they want to get respect and maybe they just kind of they feel they have to be a certain way. So, she led a little bit more with an iron fist. And I respected that. I mean,
She was a little bit more assertive.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And definitely, you know, just very different in the way that she would instruct me in how to be like on set. And there was just some things that, to me, I consider them extremely rude. You know, there's a way to do things that are polite and have respect for somebody, and speak to somebody with respect. So I, being the Latina that I am, you know, it took a lot for me to accept that and like be okay with it. But I think the reward outweighed.
I was going to say, so sometimes to get that value out of a relationship or a situation, you have to learn to take a step back. Yeah.
You have to
swallow your pride. Yeah.
Definitely. It was a lesson. It was a learning experience. I don't regret a minute of it. And so I even tell people that are apprenticing now, I'm like, you know, not everybody is going to teach you the same way. So you're always getting a lesson. And so whether that is, you know, with someone who's a little bit more on the cruel side, what's the lesson there? Well, the lesson could be, I don't want to teach that way when I'm in that position. It could also be toughen up your skin. What if you're a person who like cries at the drop of a hat, you know, and you're just not going to be a crybaby anymore, right? So, you know, it's one of these things where I think we definitely do coddle our youth a little bit more, and there is a little bit more of that. But at that time, you know, she served that purpose. And then I went on to...
Well, and before you move on, you know, I want to make sure it's kind of clear for some of our audience is sometimes you may be learning from somebody that is not the nicest, may hurt your feelings, may not talk to you the way you like to be talked to. But I guess the point is kind of the bigger picture, right? What am I learning from this person? What can I learn from them? And that has more value than, well, I'm just going to walk away right now because nobody talks to me like that and nobody treats me like that.
I think it's just important to remember sometimes that while you might and you should expect respect for yourself, nobody really truly owes you respect. And if you're in a situation where you don't appreciate the treatment that you're receiving, however, you are getting so much value out of that connection or that relationship, that's where you weigh.
Right. And it's smart to make that connection, you know, and you don't want to walk away from something simply because somebody like hurt your feelings. Yes. I mean, that would be the stupidest thing that I could have done back then, because where would I be? I mean, really, I stayed on. I met Tommy Lee Jones, George Strait. I mean, I worked with all these celebrities. I was able to like...
And now you've met Dulce Espinosa.
I know, the biggest celebrity
I am with Javier and Dulce. No, but it's like the opportunities are incredible, you know? And so...
you just bit your tongue when
I did, and I was going to share a more recent experience where I am on the other side of that. And I kind of find this a little funny. That person probably doesn't, but I do. I had an apprentice, and you know, we have to know when we're in the wrong. Mm-hmm. If you're in the wrong and someone tells you you're in the wrong, that's not disrespectful. That's someone telling you, hey, you're not doing your job, you know, and there's a difference. And I feel like youth don't know the difference sometimes. They're like, I can't believe, you know, they snapped at me, they got upset with me. Well, yeah, you're not doing your job. Yeah. So you're gonna get in trouble if you don't do your job. If you're late, you're gonna get reprimanded. Yes. Yeah. So, you know, they're not open to being reprimanded. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference between disrespect and being reprimanded. Yeah. And so we were doing a wedding. You know, they weren't following this itinerary I worked 2 hours on. We had like, you know, like probably 16 girls. I mean, it was just a lot going on, and we had a whole team. And I mean, we're orchestrating this wedding that's like thousands of dollars. Yeah. And I'm executing the bride's wishes, you know, and so it's very, very, this client was very particular, very high profile wedding. And I need everybody to follow this itinerary. This person did not even look at it, is not even following it. And I have to tell her twice. Finally, I tell her a third time. And, you know, we're in a big room, so I can't be like, hey, can you come over here? I don't have time for this. You know, so I'm like, hey, can you please follow the itinerary? Like, I was very stern. And so later down the road, this person brings this to my attention and says, well, I just don't really appreciate the way you talk to me. And, you know, as a matter of fact, someone else thought it was a little rude. And I said, well, yeah, because they don't know they don't know about like the itinerary. They don't know what went into it. You know, they're just seeing that you're getting reprimanded, but you know, you really need to process and think about this. And let's talk about this. You know, I was willing to talk about the situation. And so we did. And it's very interesting because ultimately this person chose to leave because they wanted to go somewhere else. And I'm kind of laughing.
Because you hurt their feelings.
And I'm kind of laughing because I'm thinking, man, I'm not even mean.
Yeah.
Like if you're really like, you know, si te estás agüitando ahorita, like, oh my gosh, you're in for a rude awakening because this was this person's first job.
And I think another thing that we can take away from that is while you might demand all the respect that you believe you are owed or that you should, you know, hold for yourself, you also have to have the respect for other people that you had worked so hard on that itinerary. This is somebody's wedding, like the biggest day probably of their life.
Yeah.
And you don't have the respect to do what you are there to do. Right. How could you expect that somebody is going to respect you enough to pull you aside, you know, during all of that?
And ultimately, it was very sad because this person worked so hard to get to where they were at. And I worked so hard to get them to where they were at. And they were at a peak. Right. They were finally at a place where they were like really, really producing. Yeah. And so it would be just foolish to leave at that time. Right. And that's exactly what they did. Got really upset about it, you know, and it was just a very hasty decision.
And, you know, that's interesting because I think that happens in every profession, right?
It really does.
People go into whether it's law, politics, business, whatever, and they want to be at the top. They want to be the best. They say, I want to be the boss. I want to sit in the boss's seat. But to be there, you got to be a high achiever. You got to be a high performer. And high performers do not do good with mediocre behavior. And so that's the part that I think a lot of our audience can take away. If they say, well, I'm not going to put up with the way they treat me. Well, you got to look at yourself. What is your behavior? What is your performance? If you're giving people mediocre work or mediocre effort, then don't blame the high performers. They've made it. They are where they want to be. You're the one that wants to be where they want to be if you're looking at a mentor.
Right.
Right. And that's where I think we have to grow a lot of thick skin in the sense that I don't like the way they talk to me, but what did I do?
Definitely.
Yes, to get to that point takes a lot of hard work in a lot of different ways. So sometimes that hard work is swallow my pride and you know, see what I can learn from this situation. I know for a fact
that everybody sitting right here together holds themselves to a certain standard. And because we hold ourselves to that standard, we are going to be the first ones to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this appropriately, or I'm going to read that itinerary that someone gave me. Like, you're going to be prepared to go into the job that you're going into because you're around other high performers, like you're saying. I mean, there was no way that I would ever go on set and not be prepared, you know, when I know that I'm around greatness, you know. So it's just one of these things where we have to hold ourselves to that standard.
But where did you get that from? Where did you get that? And, you know, I mean, we're talking about you were 15 modeling, you're starting doing makeup. Where did
Surrounding yourself with people that are like that. I think we also discussed this, Javier, and I do feel there is a thing that some people are born with and some people are not born with.
And when you and I say we discuss this, every time she cuts my hair, we sit there and we talk forever about life and mentorship and business. And that's how we become good friends and just like, what's going on in your world?
And I have to say, you know, Dulce, your father was one of my mentors. I consider Javier one of my mentors because he sat in my chair when I finally decided to set foot back in the salon. I had been in production. I told that story because I was not in the salon. I was actually on set. I was doing things like this. I was behind the scenes. I was working on movies. You know, I was doing something completely different. But I decided to step back into the salon, and that's when I met you. Is when I had actually sought out a hair mentor, and that's where I was at Andrew's place. Yeah. And he was a whole other mentor. Oh my gosh, talk about a third version of a mentor that I would definitely love to share this story. But, you know, you were a mentor as well because we can learn something from everybody. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's one of the things that I truly love about my job is that I have so many different people in my chair and I get to ask them questions about themselves. And so I'm getting basically market surveys of human beings, you know, participating in life experiences in real time. Mm-hmm. And I'm really getting all that feedback and I'm taking all that data And I'm really using it for my children, for myself, as lessons learned. I hear you, I hear them. And I really have taken it to heart when you've recommended books to me, when you've told me, hey, when you just started your career, and then we'd see each other again and you're like, I'm buying a building, and it's like, wow, there's all these like different points that you catch somebody in and they're growing. And so if you're not growing and you're just like stale and stagnant, and you're okay with that and you're complacent, then you're probably not a high performer. Right. You're okay with that kind of life. Mm-hmm. But there are certain people that are born a certain way. Selena was born a certain way. She's Selena. Yes, her father cultivated things, but there was something really special about her. My makeup mentor, her background, there was something really special about her. And there was a reason why she was, a little bit bitter. And I took the time to find out what those things were, and I understood. And I think it made me a little bit more understanding as to why, this person was the way that they were. And then, when I met you, I was at Andrew's place.
You were just cutting hair, and I remember we were talking about, so what are you going to do? And I remember back then you told me, someday I'd like to have my own salon.
Right.
Even back then when you were just starting, right. And I would tell you, well, you should read this book, or you would talk to me about what you were doing, reading, where you were learning. Yeah. And that's the one thing that I think that I've enjoyed and that I see in high-performing people. High-performing people don't say, I want this, I'm dreaming of this, and they go home and do nothing.
Right.
Netflix can help sometimes. Because it makes fun of me that I always say, don't watch Netflix.
You have to have action behind your words. I mean, there always has to be action behind your words.
And that could be as simply as who's hiring, where's the salons, can I get into this business? How am I going to run a business? How do you do QuickBooks? Or
reading books that people, that people recommend to you when you see somebody that you're like, oh, you know what, I really like where they are. Even if it's not in your field, I really like where they are.
I want to kind of blow your minds a little bit.
Okay.
There are books, right? There's books, there's courses, there's college, there's all these things. I feed off of energy and people. It's just what resonates with me. Mm-hmm. And so I seek out being around people who are better than me constantly. And I just want to like pick their brains. And I enjoy it so much. So what I did was when I did think like, okay, I want to go back in the salon, but where do I even start? How do I go to a salon? So I looked up who was the best in the city, and Andrew Guerra popped up. He was the international educator for Chi, and he worked directly with Farouk. And so I call over to the salon, and for whatever reason, somebody was sick. He answers the phone.
Wow.
And it happens. I mean, sometimes they're like, oh my God, that's you, Alix. And I'm like, yeah, it's me. I'm right here. And they're like, oh, well, I wanted to make an appointment with you. So I had one of these moments where he answers the phone and I said, yeah, I'm looking for Andrew Guerra. He goes, who is this? And I said, you don't know me. My name is Alix. I was wanting to see if you have an apprenticeship, like if I can come sweep, whatever, like you want me to clean. Like I just really want to find somebody who I can mentor with for hair. Yeah, I mean, I used to mentor, but I'm not doing that anymore. He starts kind of like,
starting to blow you off a little bit.
I think I caught him so off guard that he's just like, no, like, I'm not in a good place. Like, that's not what I want to do right now. And I started asking questions, and I said, oh, okay, well, where is your salon? And what, so I start kind of almost performing an interview, and he's obliging me. I mean, he's totally answering my questions. And then he kind of realized like, hey, wait a minute, like, I gotta go. Like, I don't need to be answering these questions. But in all those questions, he ends up telling me that he's in Bernie on Thursdays. And I said, oh yeah, well, where? And so he tells me, he goes, oh, there's this little place at this and that or whatever. And I said, okay. And I said, all right. I said, well, what time do you usually get there? And he goes, well, wait a minute. Like, I'm not
inviting you.
I told you, I'm not hiring anybody, and I'm not looking for an apprentice. And I said, okay. I said, well, all right. Well, maybe I'll see you around sometime, this and that, whatever. We get off the phone, put on my little calendar, Thursday. I'm going to Bernie. I'm gonna stalk him in the parking lot, and if he sees me in person and I present myself well, maybe I can convince him. Mm-hmm. I know, like somehow, maybe I'm delusional, I don't know. I feel like I can convince him. So I drop off my kids at school. I head out to Bernie. I'm like in the parking lot and I'm really just waiting because I see what time the salon opens and I'm gonna catch him. There's only one way in, right? So I'm in the parking lot and I'm like waiting for Andrew and I see his picture online. So I see him and I'm this big, huge guy and he's long hair.
So you had never met him? You just kind of saw a picture of him?
No, I just saw pictures. I see him coming with his little hat and his white pants and he's like, you know, making his way to the salon. And the way that it was is it was this historical building in Bernie, and it had an elevator at the bottom, and you'd go up into the salon on the 3rd floor. And there's like a little bench out there. And so I see a lady sitting out there, and he's, you know, walking up, and he's getting out of his car, and I go up and I said, "Hey," I said, "Hi, I'm Alix. We spoke on the phone the other day. I thought I'd just come and introduce myself." And, you know, and I'm just like, blah, 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 right? I'm just like talking and talking. And he's like, "What?" And he just looks at me like I'm crazy. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I know you mentioned that you don't want you're not mentoring and you're not hiring an apprentice or anything. I wouldn't be in the way. I would really just be helping you. I will sweep, I will clean, whatever it is that you need me to do, I'm there for you." So
another situation of swallowing your pride and
and just getting over there. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling him this and he looks at me like, "I don't have time for this." And then he looks, his gaze goes straight over to that woman sitting on that bench. And he just says, "Can I cuss on here?"
Yeah. You what?
Can I cuss? Mm-hmm. He says, "Oh, shit." You know, that moment?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, shit." And he just looks at that lady and I go, "What?" And he says, "I double booked myself." He goes, "Damn it." And he goes, "You know how to shampoo?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, get up here."
Oh my God.
I go up. That's how I got a job with Andrew.
Wow.
So it's really, really, really a situation of you do not wait for you know, people to come with you to operate. Yes, people tell me
all the time.
And you don't care, you keep going.
And I just don't hear no.
Yes.
But that's a great way to deal with rejection because, you know, a lot of young kids right now, they have dreams, they have goals, ambitions. And we have to understand that you're going to hear a lot of no's before you get to a yes.
And no doesn't mean stop. No means find another way.
You're not going to hear a lot of no's. You have to hear a lot of no's. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
100 no's, you're going to get one yes. 2 no's, probably not. It's a numbers game. You have to like get a bunch of no's under your belt and then you'll be able to like, finally somebody's going to say yes.
I think that's such an important message though. Such an important message that a lot of people a lot of guests that we've had, or even that you hear about otherwise, that they'll tell you, you have to get a bunch of no's. Oh, I've had so many no's. I can't count the amount of no's. All of these situations, these times of rejection, where when you're feeling that yourself in the moment, it sucks. It really sucks. And that is like the hardest thing to do is pick yourself back up and willingly put yourself back in that situation to feel like that. But you have to.
And my advice is when you hear that yes, oh man, it's so good.
It just feels that much better.
That was such a great feeling and it's a yes, right? So when you have that feeling and you know what that feels like, you get kind of addicted to that feeling. So it's really motivating.
Here's the thing, you know, for young kids is think about you're here because of the yeses. We don't even know how many thousands of no's you've had. And I was telling this to a young attorney the other day. A young attorney tried a case and lost the case. And, you know, a trial, and I was telling him, you know what? I've lost so many cases, but the ones people remember are the big verdicts that I've gotten, the big wins that I've gotten. Nobody ever thinks about the ones you've lost or the no's.
Right.
And I think that's the same in life, right? Nobody's ever going to remind you of the no's. Right. They're always going to say, wow, look at this person where they're at.
So the lesson is you have to fail. You have to be okay with failure. You have to be okay with rejection. Starting off in that acting modeling world, the first thing they tell you is, listen, you have to be ready for rejection. That's one of the first things they prepare you for. And I'm sure the actress that you interviewed prior to me probably said there was a lot of rejection involved. Actors and actresses, that is part of their repertoire. They're used to being rejected. You're not the right fit. Your face, no.
I know, I was going to say modeling is probably even like worse, a step above rejection, because then they're nitpicking you.
Yeah, totally. So somebody will talk about them and they're like, baby, this is all wrong. Yeah.
I know. What do you mean I'm too tall? Yeah. Well, welcome back, everybody. In case you can notice, we had to lower the blinds because Diego kept complaining that it was too hot and he would not sit up here with us.
A little
and
diva.
So our both little divas said it's too hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I want to kind of get back to your story. You finally got in with Andrew, and then what happens next?
So I ended up working with Andrew for a couple years. But this is really funny. It's again, a totally different version of a mentor. So Andrew was really special. He was definitely super inappropriate by today's standards. I mean, beyond measure. And so there was a lot of times I'm not gonna lie, I would end up in the back color room and I was like holding back tears and I would just be like, oh my God, like I just wanted to cry. And one day he comes in the back.
Was he mean or what do you mean?
He would just make all kinds of inappropriate comments. But again, I was like, no, like I'm here to learn something and this man is extremely talented. If he wasn't, I wouldn't stick around. None of these people would I be around if I didn't believe in their talents. Yeah. So I'm in the back, I got a tear running quietly down my face and I'm just like taking a deep breath so that I can suck it up and go back out there. And he comes in and he says, hey, he goes, what's the matter? And I go, what's the matter? I said, it's totally fine. I said, please just give me a minute. And he says, you know why I do this, right? And I'm like, why, Andrew? Why do you do this? I'm like, here I am. I'm a mom. I'm married. Like, I don't have time for this BS, And so he says, I'm doing this because if I make you tough in here, he says, nobody's ever going to be able to touch you out there. And he said, and it's a really tough world. The hair industry is tough. And this industry in itself is just a really tough place to make it. So I'm thickening your skin. Walks back out. I thought about it. And I was like, is that what he's doing?
Or is that his excuse?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think a really good message to get from that nowadays, because you don't want to get sued, but
right. Yeah.
But also
there was some hazing going on here,
No, but when you become that, Andrew for somebody else, when you get to mentor somebody else and you have that power, remember, just keep that in mind and don't abuse your power. There are ways to teach your mentees certain lessons without abusing that power.
I also love a metaphor. So a callus, right? What is a callus from? Mm-hmm. It's from constant rubbing in the same place, right? And so we've heard people associate a human being with being so callous, Yeah. And I think there's a happy medium to that. I mean, we do need to kind of anything that we can reflect on ourselves and we think about things that have made us tougher. We probably have a story similar to what I'm describing, where you had a professor who was like, oh my God. I mean,
my professors have always loved me.
No,
right.
Okay. No,
okay.
Never mind.
Yeah.
No, but that's true because we've had other guests. I remember Julian Castro when I asked him, what can you tell our young people? And he said, love yourself. Because the world is tough. And I can only imagine him being one of the first Hispanics to run for president.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
How much hate he got from so many people, right?
Just reading stuff online. I mean, it's enough to make you cry, right?
And so that's
and internalize all of that.
And that's to your point. Yeah. If people want to be successful, if you want to get up to the top, man, you got to have some thick skin. And you can't go home crying after every time they hurt your feelings.
You got to have some thick skin. Yeah. And it's true. I mean, anytime I've been, and I have been around a lot of actors, I've been around a lot of really high profile people who are, they're being interviewed for 60 Minutes or 2020 or whatever when I worked for CBS. These people that they're in powerful positions or they're famous or whatever, when I'm talking to them, they are kind, but you can tell there is a air about them that is really tough. They are so tough. And so they didn't get there from having, ice cream rainbows and, butterflies, just those kind of days where it's just easy days. They got there from really hard days that toughened them up, made them stronger, and ultimately shaped them into who they are.
Yes. I think the point that I would like to express right now, because we are trying to help shape the next generation and we are trying to send a good message out to the next generation, is you have to have that tough skin. Clearly, you have to have that tough skin. Everybody here is saying that, you know, everybody that's made it is saying that,
Right.
and has experienced these situations. You don't have to put other people in that situation once you get to
don't.
that
Yeah.
point.
Exactly. You can make a choice to say, hey, do I want to lead by this example, or do I choose to, would this have helped a little bit more?
Which I think is the other beauty of mentorship is you should have all of these different mentors. You should definitely not seek out the same person over and over and over again.
Oh, and trust me, there's been iterations of me as a mentor. I mean, the mentor that I was, you know, in the beginning is not the mentor that I am now, just as parent. The parent that we were with our first child might not be
Right.
the same parent with our
But
third
you know,
child.
it kind of goes back to what we had talked about before. Once you get there, a lot of times you don't intentionally mean to be a mean, ugly mentor, but it kind of goes back to, if I'm a high performer, I want high performers around me.
Right.
And I'm going to have very little patience for people that are mediocre, right? So if people want to get to the top, then they have to, again, it goes back to each individual. Like, I want that, but do I have the discipline and the work ethic to get there? Like, I love the story of you saying, I researched who it is. I went and I stalked them. I tracked them. Man, you don't get to where you're at without doing crazy stuff like that.
And I had wanted to touch on it. The fact that you're saying after I dropped my kids off at school, the fact that you were a mom the whole time
I
too.
was already, yeah. So people would probably say or tell me, which they did, was I'm past my prime. You know, I'm already supposed to know it all, but I don't know it all because I'm switching careers. I am in a parallel career, but I'm still entering a whole other industry. The hair world is a completely different world.
I mean, you made it as a professional stalker. You know?
Right.
You know, parallel. I said parallel.
So once you're there, you know, you're learning, you're growing. How do your dreams continue to evolve?
Sure. You know, from there, I outgrew my mentors. I will say that. So that's okay. You know, I feel that even the person that, like the story that I told you about where I was mentoring somebody and that was my apprentice somehow felt they outgrew me, and they probably did. They weren't going to be afraid of me anymore. They were not going to listen to me anymore. To me, that's outgrowing your mentor. You're not respecting your mentor anymore. So it's time for you to move on. If you're starting to feel like you have doubts and that's not the place for you, then have the, have the strength to go and find something else, you know, and yes, there's a little bit of pride involved in that particular situation, but I knew at that time, I would take things from Andrew, and I accepted the way that he was. But one thing that I didn't accept was, at that time, I was helping him build a new business. He had inherited a spa and he was building up that spa. And so I had an incredible opportunity. I didn't know how to manage a spa. I didn't know how to do these things. So of course, there I go once again. I do my research. I get books on leadership. I get books on management. I get books on salon management. And so I'm reading, I'm really researching, and I didn't really know what it was that I was looking for. So at that time, you can kind of like look and search for what you're looking for, but I didn't know what I needed to focus on. So I really wasn't ready for that. So I made a lot of mistakes with his business.
Yeah, somebody else's business.
Somebody else's business, but I wasn't getting paid. Remember, I'm there voluntary. So I'm really just making money with the chair whenever I get a client. So I'm really sacrificing a lot of my time and my energy and driving all that way. Bernie is really far from San Antonio. Yeah. And I'm having to drop off. At this time, I already have 4 children, okay?
Gosh. And
they're going to high school, middle school, and daycare and elementary. So I have to wake up really early to, be on time for my mentor, because I don't want anybody to say anything about me that I don't belong there, and a similar thing happened to me when I got my first feature. I was up for lead hair for Sanitarium, and I worked with John Glover and Vivica Fox, and like just all these people for Mission Park. Like, these are my first features. I'm going to go interview, and the lead makeup artist, her name is Meredith Johns. We're best friends now, but we did not like each other in the beginning. And so she's sitting at the table and she's like, I'm doing an interview and she tells me, so you have kids? And I said, and she's saying, you know me too. So I'm sitting across from her and I'm just like, yes, I do. Is there a question? And she says, well, it's just been my experience that, moms, they tend to be late. They're not on time. They give a lot of excuses. What happens if your kid gets sick? And I said, I would really appreciate it if you would worry about yourself. Like, I've already made the preparations to do what I do. If you have a question about, my credentials, then go ahead and ask me about my credentials. But that's my personal life, and you'll never have an issue with me being late. So it's very interesting what ended up happening. And the producers were there and they were like, oh, And so I ended up getting hired because they really wanted me and she really didn't want me. So I spent my time on that set. For 30 days, we were shooting here in like the dead of summer, August. And we're shooting this movie and she doesn't like me. She doesn't like me. And she's just like, I could feel like she's waiting for me to fail, right? But I already made my preparations. I did everything I needed to do to make sure I had a backup plan, because as parents, we cannot plan for all these things. Thankfully, I have a great support system, which is another great thing, to find your support system. What is that plan that you have? If you're going to get a job and you absolutely cannot not show up, what's your backup plan?
Yeah.
Do you have a backup plan? Or are you really counting on like everything to go perfectly?
That's a great point, because I have had multiple employees that they feel like, well, you should understand. Everybody should understand how much I'm struggling. Everybody should have sympathy on me. And I'm like, no, man, my clients don't.
No.
I can't tell that to a client. I can't tell that to a judge. So you either are here or you're not.
Right.
And I think that's a great point to make, is part of successful people.
Yeah.
You got to be there. It's got to get done. The job's got to be done.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I went to so many auditions where it was like, there's 20 other girls that look better than you. There's other people who are more worthy of being. I got told all these things like, when I was a teenager. I got told all these things when I was in my early 20s and I was already with children. And I'm constantly being told that I'm expected to fail, And so here I'm like, I'm so excited because I have this incredible opportunity. I'm going to interview for my first feature film. And it's going to pay so amazing. I'm like going to work with celebrities. It's what I wanted to try. And I thought, okay, well, I want to try working in movies. So I sought out working in movies because I was like trying to find my way. I am there and here. Now I have somebody already telling me like,
that they're expecting you to fail.
How are you going to get to work?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, you don't know me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
And you came out.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't know me.
And that really goes back to what you were saying about holding yourself to that certain standard, because it shouldn't matter about how many people are expecting you to succeed or to fail or what you have going on in your life. Everybody always has something going on in their life. Everybody will always have something going on. Mm-hmm. It's the standard that you hold yourself to, and then how you are going to meet that standard.
Well, it's funny that you say that because in a very, 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 very funny turn of events, we are filming.
She was late. No.
Not only was she late, she was absent because she ended up getting really sick. We were filming not too far from here in an abandoned building that I guess had some like asbestos or like something was like in the air, and she has like asthma. And so she was not able to even work in the building. So I had to do her job plus my job for an entire week. And she had to rely on me. And so I ended up doing her job and my job.
Karma.
So, it's just one of these things where it's really funny because, you have opportunities to, just prove people wrong, and you do that. And I have to say now she's one of my best friends. I won her over.
You earned her respect. Again, like what we talked about earlier, you don't walk in demanding respect.
Yeah.
People don't owe you respect, but you can earn their respect.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of go back to the evolution of the Alix I know. So you're at Andrews, you're kind of working there. How does that evolve into where you're at today?
Oh man, after Andrew, I started, I actually won a YouTube contest, my pretzel bun. I won a YouTube contest and I got to go to New York. And I got exposed to more mentors. So now I'm like really exposed to like the big time. I'm mentoring with Luke O'Connor, who...
Real quick, what were you doing on YouTube that got you, like, were you submitting
So yeah,
videos
there was, this is basically like 2008, 9, when social media was starting to really like take form. Facebook was like, people were starting to get a Facebook page. Instagram wasn't even a thing yet. It was just about to materialize.
For our audience like me who might not really remember 2008, 2009 internet-wise, that's like when Gossip Girl was shooting. So the original. So yeah, you can go back, watch that. This is what was going on. It was like basically the dinosaur ages, guys.
Oh, man. She had the best.
We have context.
She had the best MySpace page.
Yeah, I did. I had Akon.
Oh my
play a song at the time. Okay, so actually that was like before that. But we're trying to get context.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're putting us in a different.
So you put a video on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I put forth this video. I submit my video because it's a contest for the most original, like, hair invention, like something very unique to you, a style. And this was done by Dove and Suave. They want to find, like, you know, they basically, it was called Trust Apprentice, and they were really advertising like their products, and they were trying to find like the next apprentice.
Right.
And I was like, ooh, that's me. That's me. So I submit this pretzel bun, and I do this whole video or whatever, and I end up winning. And so I got to have all these mentors. Those were my winnings. So of course it appealed to me. I was like, I already knew that apprenticing is where I was going to get the most knowledge, because I'm a hands-on person. Like, I can read stuff. I can definitely, like, you know, absorb all of this information, but I'm definitely more like symbiotic, right? I have to be symbiotic. I have to, like, see somebody in front of me. I like to hear stories. I like also to hear how what you're saying gets put into action, and how did that play out in your life, you know? And when I hear that, it stays with me. Mm-hmm. And then I'm able to, like, really process that data and apply it to myself or not apply it to myself.
But think about the work ethic, right? That I've always told you, I admire your work ethic. And if you think about to that time, you're interning, not getting paid while you're doing all this work. You are cutting hair to try to make a living.
Right.
You're taking your kids to school. You're picking them up. You're trying to be a mom. You're trying to be a wife.
Still having to pay your bills.
Yeah. And at the same time, you're shooting videos of hair to submit into online contests.
Trust me, I know.
But that's what it takes, right? That's what it takes.
It just takes focus. And so, and yes, I mean, the moment the thing about me at that time is, because I was a mom, the moment I walked out the door, I already owed money because I had to use daycare. So I knew that. So I already knew.
It's not even daycare. My kids are not in daycare anymore, and every day I owe money.
But it was a lot. So I knew I had to do the math, and it was simple math. This is what it costs for me to walk out the door and be able to go do that. So that means I have to do this many faces, this many haircuts. Like, am I able to do that? Social media, I have to say, gave me the platform to really, like, branch out and get what I needed and market to that person. Because once I was in front of people, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can talk to someone and say, hey, would you like this? And I can put my work in front of somebody. So social media, I feel like, definitely changed my life. And it really, I knew I had the talent. I just didn't know how to, like, get it out there to the masses. And so because I was able to do that, I feel like that definitely helped with my being able to make a living. And we hear these stories all the time. There's, like, a mom at home, she starts baking, she, puts it on social media. Pretty soon she's getting like 10 cake orders and cupcake orders. If she was just sitting at home and there wasn't social media, she wouldn't have been able to do that.
Or if she wasn't utilizing the resources that were at her disposal.
Correct. But you have a baby at home, so you got to strap the baby on and, like, go out, and then, like, it's like grassroots. You're like, hey, I bake cakes. And then you're like, look at my cakes. I mean, that's hard. Versus, like, putting it on social media and being like, look at my cakes, and somebody's like, oh, I love cake.
Yeah.
And then you got 10 people who love cake and they're sharing your cake.
So there's a lot of different, I guess, like, think outside the box type of situations where you have these resources available to you, especially us now, and we're not in 2008, 2009 anymore. But there are a lot of different ways that you can get your material out in front of people.
So the point is marketing. Yeah. You have to market yourself. So, and you have to use the resources that are available to you. Mm-hmm. Social media was a free resource for me. So I was going to leverage that as much as possible.
And how did you do that? Did you have a Facebook page that you really put out there?
I did. So I was, we had the internet, so I was able to like research, different contests, apprentice things. And when I looked up apprentice, this contest came up and I was like, oh, I'm going to apply for this. I'm going to submit a YouTube video. And Luke O'Connor, who, if you don't know who he is, he's actually the creator of all the hair for Will and Grace. So
wow.
he does Deborah Messing's hair. He owns Lucaro in Beverly Hills. He is bi-coastal, so he goes from Beverly Hills to New York. And incredible talent. Him and his wife own Lucaro. And his wife, actually, Rona, she does color. She does like Blake Lively's hair.
Wow.
He cuts hair, so he's not a colorist. She's a colorist.
So that's who you got an apprenticeship with?
I got an apprenticeship with him.
That's incredible.
Incredible.
That is.
I mean, I got exposed to this person, so I'm just like, I'm getting flown over to spend time with this person. And I get to ask him whatever I want. He chose my pretzel buns. So that in itself is a bit of an ego boost. Yeah. Like you're like, oh my gosh, he like chose my pretzel buns. So I'm like, so what did you like about my pretzel buns?
That's incredible. But I was gonna ask you, say you got flown out there. How long were you out there for?
So my relationship with them actually lasted over 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was quite a while. So all the while that I'm like, doing this thing called life, I'm getting little pearls every time I go and apprentice with somebody. I don't remember her name anymore, which I'm really sad about. I'd have to go into my Instagram and find a picture of us. But I got to apprentice with Justin Timberlake's hair stylist as well. So I apprenticed with her. She's the one who introduced me to tools that I needed. I didn't know that I didn't know about Hattori Hanzo shears. And so this was an incredible opportunity.
You didn't know about Hattori Hanzo shears, really? Come on.
What are those scissors?
I know. I'll tell y'all later. No, but I'm exposed to this person, and so she is a different kind of person. So he has a salon, but now I'm working with her, and she has a bag, and it says Zuka on it, and I'm like, what's that? And she says, oh, these are my tools. I travel and I basically go to hotel rooms and I'll cut Justin's hair, or I'll go here and these are my tools. She was specialized in men's grooming. So she's the one who taught me how to do your hair.
No.
Which you appreciated.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. So that's how I got better with that. So basically what happened was I'm looking at the way she is presenting herself. I'm very, very hyper curious as to how she made that connection. So I'm getting to ask her all these questions, and it's part of my winnings, right? Yeah. So she has to. And so they're paying her, the company's paying her. I get to go to Connecticut. I get to go to Procter & Gamble and go through like their process of making like all these products and like how they make them and why they work and how they test them. And I mean, just
that is so incredible.
The inner workings of like the hair, hair products. So that also helped me because it's not just about like, finding a mentor and then learning, what path you want to take, but you also have to invest in the tools and the things that you're going to need in order to be there. So because I was exposed to her, I feel like I was really, my mind was open to all these tools that were like so important to execute the type and level of service that I wanted to give and attract the kind of clientele that I wanted. So when I saw her things, she opened it up, shows me all her things, how she organized her things. And I was like, wow, this is incredible.
And you had never seen that, even though you had never been in the industry for a while.
Even though I had mentors, my mentors had different ways that they organized their things. Nothing really like to write home about. So, like I said, they were good at certain things, but they didn't have any finesse with like what they had packed up, and even though my makeup mentor, she had kits put together, they were bulky. They were like, they weren't practical, you know? And so here she has this backpack that has all these like compartments. And you know what? She exposes me to all these like different products and tools. And I'm like, I need that.
When you're talking about like, you know, outgrowing your mentors, that's what I'm connecting right now, is that as you're, you know, you outgrow one level of your, you know, mentorship, and you reach this new level, you are seeing here like what the new things that you were learning from these other people. You're seeing why they are where they are.
And I'm surrounding myself with people who are more talented than me, better than me, and further ahead than me. And that was also a really key thing. Is
that's in everything, right? In business. You just keep elevating.
Yeah, seeing Luke and his salon, I'm like, this salon is incredible. Like it had a garden, you know, in the middle of it. And this is his like home. This is where he works. I mean, how posh and beautiful. And I'm like, and luxurious. And I'm like, I need to be in.
This is what I want.
This is what I need to do. I need to be in this.
So is that when you decided to open up your own salon here?
That's when I definitely decided to take the plunge and definitely open up something. But I have to backtrack a little bit about people in my chair. So you were one of the people in my chair at that time. There was another gentleman who was in my chair at that time. And he was someone that, it's like I said, you have to use your resources. So he tells me, Alix, like, you're so talented. Like, he saw something in me. There was definitely, like, now I know there was ulterior motive, but he had a shopping center. And I know he wanted to, now I know he probably needed the funding, and he probably needed to fill up those, you know, the stores so that he could get more funding, right? Now I know that. I didn't know that at the time, but he's like, oh yeah, like I'll partner up with you. I'll help you open up your salon. And I'm like, do I want to partner? I didn't even think I could do something like this. And so he invests $30,000 into my first salon, the Oxygen Room and Beauty Bar. I'm going to pay him rent. I'm paying $1,500, a little over $1,500 a month for this 900 square foot space. He helps me renovate it. I mean, like I said, $30,000 goes into this. So I found that just from one of my clients in my chair entices me to do this. And we're supposed to be partners. He's supposed to be helping me with, like, you know, more of the business side of things, because I'm like, well, I need help.
Yeah.
I really don't get help. He's also a lawyer. He also owns a ton of other businesses. He owns that shopping center. He doesn't have time for me. You know, he just wants me to cut his hair. And he wanted me to fill, you know, and I'm paying rent. Yeah. And I'm a reliable person. So as far as he's concerned, this is a win. You know, we have a contract. It's not like he's not going to get his money. And so I'm just kind of like, you know, after a while, I'm, you know, doing things on my own, and I'm really, really making a lot of mistakes and trying to figure it out. And I'm there in that small location. Well, from that business, I end up teaching people makeup. It just becomes a thing. Everybody wants me to teach them. Like, a client would be like, I love the way you did my makeup. How do I do this? So then I end up opening up another linear business, which is the makeup box. So I decide to start teaching makeup to the public, and I start holding these workshops. A lot of these things that I'm telling you about, they're also to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're all, everything that I'm talking about that I'm like, oh, this, a lot of it comes from just like, ingenuity comes from the necessity of having to make ends meet. So I'm always super tenacious, because I know before I walk out that door, I already owe this money.
You know, you've spent so much time, invested so much time learning the industry, learning all these things, apprenticing. Now you're at a point where you said, okay, I've got this knowledge. How am I creative in turning that into a financial reward?
Sure.
Right? Yeah. How do I turn that?
And it's tapping into like, what talents do you have? Like, what do you have? It's about looking at your resources. You're your best resource. Mm-hmm. So what comes naturally to you? And that summer, I just had a personal goal. I was like, you know, I've always wanted to write a book. I secretly wanted to be a writer. And I was like, you know, I know about makeup. I know hands down, like in and out about makeup. So I'm going to write my first makeup book. So I invested in myself. And this continues that thought. You have to invest in yourself. When you go to college, when you take a course, when you travel and go and get more knowledge, or take a symposium, or whatever it is that you do, you're investing in yourself. And so that's what I did, is I invested in myself, and I decided to hire a videographer and a photographer, and I started kind of like making this book because I thought, okay, well, maybe I can make a product that I can sell because I'm teaching makeup, but sometimes I don't have time to teach makeup. So maybe I can sell this book so that I can like make some money off the book and I don't have to be present. And it had like a DVD. I had a whole video going through. I've actually toyed with the idea of, putting it into somewhere where now, of course, it's like obsolete, right? The CDs and all that stuff, but you would get the book with the CD at that time.
Yeah.
I'm really aging myself now. So
no, but you know what I was going to say? Honestly, you're talking about you really have to invest in yourself. And this whole time, I just keep hearing of every situation, every time that you invested in yourself, when a lot of different aspects of your situation would deter other people from investing in themselves. And a lot of people would think, I'm responsible for too many other people and too many other things right now. I can't take the time to go make YouTube videos. I can't take the time to hunt down this one guy or make these phone calls.
Right.
I can't take the time or the effort that it takes to open up my own studio right now. Because, maybe later on down the road, at a better time. But you never let any of these things in your situation stop you from investing in yourself.
Yeah, and all the while, I have to say on a personal note, I had a lot of adversity at home. I was married twice. I've been married twice, and I'm on my third marriage. This one's really nice. But, I had a lot of adversity at home. I was with partners that just, they were either, jealous of certain things, of, success, or didn't believe in my vision, So I have to say that for anybody that's listening, the takeaway today is also not only surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded in business and in, in things that you want to excel at, but it starts at home. I mean, if you don't have a partner that is aligned with you, you're going to be swimming upstream. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. And so you're going to have so many more headaches and so much more adversity. There's already so much adversity when you walk out the door. To have it in your own home is just like, it's tiring. It's really tiring. Thank goodness I have a lot of stamina and I'm a fighter, but I'm the type of person that you tell me no, and I'm going to make you eat your words. Yeah. So I don't like to be told no, especially when I really believe in something. And I'm not saying like, when someone tells me no, you can't have another piece of cake.
Well, you have that other piece of cake.
I'm gonna have that.
You carry that with you in every aspect of your life.
About like just really like somebody's not believing in like what it is that you want to do. I mean, I've had partners that have laughed at my ideas, and it was like fuel to the fire,
You have one life at the end of the day, and when you are on your deathbed and you're reflecting back on your life, you don't have to be on your deathbed, but when you're reflecting back on your life, I know. But your partners are not the ones sitting there reflecting back on your life, They're reflecting back on their own life. And so you have yourself to answer to at the end of the day.
And somebody said something to me today, actually, and it made me feel really good because I tell myself these things, but it's nice when somebody recognizes that. And I was told, you said all these things like years ago and you've done everything that you said you were going to do. And I'm checking in back with you like 10 years later and here you are, and I was like, yeah, I am, and I definitely am the type of person that I want to map out like what it is that I want to do. Like right now, I love a whiteboard. So I have a whiteboard. I know people do like vision boards and they do the cutting out thingies and all that stuff. That's not for me. I like a whiteboard. I will make a list and I will say, I don't care how wild it is. Sometimes I just like put on there like, I want to have my extension line. Like I wish I could have a better tool. I'll put things up there, and it's what they say, like out of invention, right? Like people invent things because out of necessity, right? And so I feel like your business will tell you what the next move is.
And with that, kind of share with us. I know you've got a nice, awesome salon. You were invited to open up your salon inside of Saks Fifth Avenue. Do you still have a salon in New York?
I did launch internally in the salon, Beautiful Blends by Alix. So I have my own extension line. And then the next thing is Main Academy. So that'll be education for other hairstylists. It'll start internal, and then hopefully we'll see in the future where that leads me. Maybe I can leave my mark on the industry, because I really don't like where it is. Trying to hire people for the salon, I've really seen that there is a gap in having hairstylists who are prepared to go into the salon. And so I think because it is such a soft time where people are like, trying to be PC, they're trying to be a little bit more delicate. Well, you know what? They're not making diamonds. So I want to cultivate an environment where I definitely put pressure on somebody, the right kind of pressure, where I'm really looking for talent. I can cultivate that talent, and I can put them under pressure to be the best, but in a very positive and productive and just a better way.
So you won't keep a cry whiteboard tallying how many times you get to make people cry.
I do love a whiteboard, Dulce.
I was going to say that.
I'm not going to say no.
That's a long ways from your stalker days.
I know, right? That is.
You guys like making fun of people. I see.
Are you going to cry? Are you going to cry?
No, I know. This is hazing.
Tougher.
No. So what's next? Like, I mean, you or let me ask you this before I say what's next. How are you balancing your life? How are you managing all this?
I have zero balance. No, I'm just kidding. It's one day at a time. I mean, I really do feel like, I know we haven't talked about it much, but adding the coffee shop to the mix, to me, even though it is a multi-hyphenated business, it's not necessarily what we've mentioned is like a parallel business. Right. Yes, it can enhance my business, because people always love having snacks and coffee. They're there for like 4 hours, 6 hours for a color transformation. But that is a whole other world that I was not ready for. I mean, I'm doing tastings, I'm creating menus, I'm hiring staff. I already have an issue hiring hairstylists. Oh my gosh, baristas, like, my goodness, so.
And the name of your coffee shop is Kiki's, right? And this is Kiki.
It's named after this little nugget right here. So she, she's tough.
And what's the address? What's the address of your coffee shop?
So it's at 1100 Broadway. We're on the corner of Jones and Broadway.
In San Antonio.
Follow us on Instagram. It's Kiki's on Jones. And so the next step for my husband and I, we actually created Kiki. Forgive the pun, but it was our pet project. So we created it together, and my husband designed it. He's born and raised in New York. So when you walk in, you definitely feel that New York vibe.
It's an amazing shop.
And it's a historical building. It was built in 1912. So I really wanted, when I decorated it, I wanted it to have that Art Deco feel, but a more modern twist. It is a little kitschy because Kiki's superimposed into some of the most iconic photos you can think of, JFK, Jackie Onassis, just all these pictures. If you look around, Kiki's everywhere.
And it is pet friendly.
It is pet friendly. So yes, Diego is invited.
No, it is a really, really, really cute little coffee shop.
People love it. It's kind of grown its own legs. So it's very interesting how that business has taken off.
Well, I think it's what San Antonio was missing. San Antonio was growing so much, and to bring in this, bit of New York, I think was, you're just a genius. You're so talented in all these different areas.
Thanks.
We have so much to learn from you.
Thanks.
So where are you now? Obviously, we've gone through your life and you're scaling in mentorship, you're scaling in learning, you're scaling in where you're at in life. Where does Alix go to today when she says, man, I need help? Where do I look to? Where are you getting your mentors from? Where are you getting your information to get to the next level?
So definitely reading, but inspiration from other places, when you travel and you're exposed to other people, that's why you really need to step outside of your bubble. Mm-hmm. So I think the takeaway from this is to find out about other people that are maybe like you or not like you. Read about people. That is something that really helped me, is looking at people who are success stories and then really seeing how they scaled. How did they get there? I love people interest stories. Human interest stories are my favorite. I think I've made it very clear. So I think that there is a roadmap to things. And if you look at somebody's roadmap, it's there for you. So you can either copy it, you can kind of customize it to yourself. But, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I mean, these are the metrics for how to get there. Someone else got there. How did they get there? I guarantee you there's somebody with a story similar to yours. How did they get there? So doing things like this, listening to a podcast and hearing somebody's story, those are ways that you can get inspired. And it's just so important to stay inspired. And I feel as having the human experience, we want to be inspired by others. So that's a really important thing, because you can wake up and you may not be inspired, but you can be like consistent.
And I think one of the things that you and I had talked about the other day, is when this is your world, when you're trying to build something, it's just always on your mind. You take a trip, you travel somewhere, and you're thinking, oh, I like the way they did that, so that you can bring it to your shop, to your business.
I know this speaks to you. Yeah.
Constantly. It's constantly in your brain, right?
But you would have never thought of it had you not been exposed to that. So it's just like this woman. I saw her tools and I was like, oh my gosh. But in getting those tools, and I got exposed to this other thing. So it's just it's definitely a snowball effect in just surrounding yourself with things that are going to help you achieve your ultimate goal. Do I wake up in the morning and what's the first thing I think about? Yes, I think about my family. I think about making a living, but I definitely am like, how can I make this better? What's my next step? I have a partner who is the same way. As a matter of fact, he's probably even more driven than I am, in the sense of like, I feel like I finally gotten to a place where I can have a little bit more balance. Like it definitely comes a little easier to me, where I don't feel guilty for taking the day off and like going and riding a bike or whatever. But he's very driven. And so that helps me to stay on track, because sometimes I'm just tired. I mean, this is probably the busiest I've ever been in my entire life. Running a coffee shop, running 2 salons, having the salon over there, having beautiful blends that I eventually want to launch and have a website and have, basically having other salons and have people really use my method of how I envision extensions being used in the salon. Right now, you can see extensions left and right. But I truly feel like I've come up with a system because I use it in my salon.
And so that's that's
my next thing. I don't like the way that it is. You have to buy a box of this color, but you know what? Sometimes I need 3 colors. It's impractical for me to ask for my client to buy 3 boxes of hair when they're $500 each. I would like to be able to customize those things. So how do I do that? So these are things that keep my brain going. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to create a system. I'm going to create something. I'm going to create Beautiful Blends by Alix Main.
So you're not seeing these obstacles as obstacles, but rather as opportunities for you. 1,000%. And so where other people can see that as, well, client, can you, buy these 3 different colors? You can't do your extension. Sorry.
Right.
Instead, you're thinking, how can I give my client what they want?
Right.
Even before they know that they want it.
Right. Yeah. And extensions, I think, have so many different, people think of them in so many different ways. And so I feel like, really exposing the public to my ideas of what extensions do for someone. They could be, I call them little prosthetics for the hair. You could what if your hair just doesn't grow that long in the front, so you're able to kind of plug in a little bit of, what if you got a bad haircut? Mm-hmm. You can actually put a little bit of hair. What if you don't want to color your hair? You don't have your hair just can't handle the bleach. Well, you can actually plug in extensions that have a balayage already done and it has color already in there, and it just kind of gradiently goes into your hair. So there's so many different ways to utilize this and use it. And am I the first person to do this? No. Is that going to stop me? No.
Yeah.
So I'm going to still do it.
So hopefully in the future, you're going to have your own product out there in the world.
Absolutely.
That's so remarkable as we kind of wrap up is, and this is why I wanted to invite you. And when my daughter went and you started cutting her hair, she was like, Alix is pretty awesome. You should have her on the show.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah, because she really did. She started learning your story and saying, it's like, I met you when you were interning, learning in this little studio. And I've seen kind of the evolution of your life to all these studios that you've got, all, you know, the coffee shop, this new product you're trying to launch out.
Managing people.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. But that's amazing, right? So
don't get me started.
So what advice, if you could give your younger self, right, maybe at 18, 19, 20, some advice.
I already know.
What advice would you give some of these listeners that may be thinking like, man, how do I get to where she's at when I'm 21?
Start sooner. Start sooner. I mean, if you know what you want to do, start carving out that path. Like, how are you going to get there? You know, it took me a while. I bounced around in I tried doing acting and modeling, which is what I wanted to do. And I got told no a lot, but I also got told yes in a different way. So I was kind of like still involved. Later down the line, I got approached by Fox. And I got to use all my talents at the same time. I had a show called Beauty Buzz for 3 years on the Fox Morning Show. And I was able to utilize my talents as an actress, but as myself, as a subject matter expert, I was able to combine all those talents. So you just don't know where you're going to end up. So it doesn't matter if you're working at Whataburger right now. It doesn't matter if like later you're, working as a paralegal or whatever it is that you're doing. Whatever it is that you want, where you want to end up, everything that you're doing is going to help you and form who you are when you get there. But if you know where you want to go, start sooner. Because I feel if I had started sooner, I would definitely be in a different place. But I had so much adversity. I had so many things stacked against me. I really shouldn't be sitting here. I shouldn't be sitting here. I shouldn't be sitting here talking about all of this. I don't feel I should be because I had so many things stacked against me. But I just never let it stop me.
Which I think is like the most important message. And whenever I was saying, hold on, I think I know who we need on this podcast, it was that. Because you've had so much adversity, but you did not let it stop you. And so like you're saying, I shouldn't be sitting here because a lot of people would let that have
there's
stopped
a lot of full circle moments. I mean, I was newly divorced, scared because I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had 2 children. I was modeling at Saks. I was one of the models that would like walk around, but because they noticed my makeup, I ended up getting a job with NARS. So I worked at Saks Fifth Avenue, counter manager for NARS Cosmetics. I got recruited. And here I am, I have the salon in Saks. I mean, what a full circle moment, right? I mean, it's crazy to even think about that, but you just don't know where you're going to end up. And where you start may not be where you finish. Mm-hmm. So it's just really important to stay consistent and develop that thick skin. Mm-hmm. And don't take no for an answer. Really look at what resources you have. Sometimes you may be your only resource. You're going to be the only one who believes in you, and that's okay. As long as you believe in you, then you can definitely do something if you put action behind what it is that you want to do.
And look at your obstacles as opportunities.
Yes, I do love that a lot. Mm-hmm. I've always said that as well. I do feel that obstacles create opportunities.
And even if all you have is a phone and a video, and you can send in videos on YouTube and get into contests and stuff. I mean,
and that being said, Javier,
that's easy.
I do want to say something to our youth or whoever is listening that is in that genre, is that I'm not famous. You don't have to be famous to make your mark. You don't have to be famous to create an extension line, to have a salon, to do all these things. If your goal is to be famous, then that's a different path.
Yeah.
My goal was not to be famous. I wanted to do what I loved. I always had an attraction to the industry. In some way, capacity or another, I just was so drawn to it. And I love what I do. It's, I was just talking about this. It's a service industry. So there's a little bit of selfishness in that because it's instant gratification. Someone's in my chair, I'm making them really happy. And it makes me feel good. So all day long, I'm making people feel good. I'm feeling good. And so I'm getting that kind of like high from like making people happy. And I'm able to take the focus off of myself and maybe whatever else I'm experiencing in my life, because we all have things that we go through. And it's not easy to walk into a salon that you own, manage people with a smile on your face when they're all being difficult. And also seeing clients who are like complete strangers and having this expectation of like, I want to look like this, So there's a lot stacked against you when you're walking in. But I love what I do. I love what I do. And I do think that there is a certain amount of gift there. Like it is, I've had things that have happened in my life that definitely question my belief in my belief, that make me question my beliefs. But at the core of everything, I do believe that they're God-given talents. We do have our talents. And something really special was given to me, and it's meant to share. Mm-hmm. And so I feel that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So.
And you've mentioned a few times about these difficulties that you had to overcome or, set aside so that you could walk in and do what you needed to do. Do you mind sharing just a little bit in case it resonates with some of our audience?
Well, I think divorce. Divorce is tough. It's a really, really tough thing to go through, let alone go through twice. As a parent, you put your children first. So that's kind of like, it's a given. It doesn't matter if you have that partner, whether they agree on it or not, you're putting the children first. It's no longer about you. Once you have a child, it is no longer about you. So I will say that one of the things that I've heard from my children is that it's inspiring that I've never stopped going after what I want and what I believe in. And I'm doing, I'm setting that example for my children, that they can have whatever it is that they set their mind to with some hard work and dedication and consistently working towards that goal. And they've seen it firsthand. Mm-hmm. They've seen it firsthand. And, those are really tough things. Your home is your refuge.
Yeah, for sure.
So when those things are not aligned, how do you go out and like go on TV in a morning show?
Try to build something when this part is crumbling.
And are like trying to teach people how to do their makeup. When you're like going through these adversities at home, you learn how to have a tough exterior, and you kind of like take a moment and you make it about that at that moment. And then it's waiting for you when you get back home. So again, I cannot say how important it is to have the right partner in life. It's extremely important. You don't need a partner. You can definitely do things on your own. You can be, Maslow's hierarchy
of needs.
Oh my gosh, you can fulfill your own needs. So if you're able to fulfill your own needs, it took me a long time to like learn that and realize that if you self-actualize and you're able to meet your own needs, you're going to be the best partner for someone else. And if you meet someone who knows how to fulfill their own needs as well, then they're able to fulfill, they're able to be a great partner to you, because there's nothing that they really need from you. And there's nothing that you need from them. You two are existing with each other, and you're able to actually be a partnership.
I always hear people say, that this person completes me. Well, you're not a broken piece. You don't need somebody to complete you. If you're complete on your own and they're complete on their own, you can complement each other, but you don't need to complete each other, because you should be complete in and of yourself, right?
Yeah, I can say I have never been more in love with somebody than I have with my husband, Gordon. I am just like head over heels in love with him. But if he told me like he's leaving me tomorrow, I'd be like, good luck. Because it would hurt. It would hurt really bad, but I know that I'm going to be okay.
And with that, I think that attitude and that personality is what's made you successful. So I want to thank you for being on our show, and I want to thank you for taking the time to come here and share your wisdom with all our listeners today.
And rescue a dog.
Yes, and rescue a dog. Yes.
Rescue a dog.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's
Thank
what
you guys. Thank you, everybody.
For more content, please like and subscribe and follow us on all social media platforms at LatinX Mentor.